Have you ever worked incredibly hard to improve yourself, gotten in the best shape of your life, achieved major success, glowed up in every way possible, primarily to show someone who hurt you what they're missing? That feeling when you post the perfect photo, share that big achievement, show up looking amazing, and you're secretly hoping they see it, hoping they realize what they lost, hoping they finally recognize your worth. And you're not petty, and you're not alone in that exhaustion, because we live in a culture that's built on the revenge glow up, that comeback story, that the look at me now transformation. Social media is flooded with it, the revenge body, the success flex, the upgrade post, all designed to show someone who didn't appreciate you exactly what they're missing. And on the surface, this looks empowering. It looks like self-love. It looks like someone who's moved on and just kind of leveled up. But here's what nobody talks about. When your transformation is primarily about proving something to someone else, you're still giving them the power over your life. You're still making them the center of your story. You're still seeking validation from the very person who already showed you that they don't see your value. And this is the paradox of the revenge glow up. You're working harder than ever, achieving more than ever, looking better than ever, but yet you're still emotionally tethered to someone who doesn't deserve access to your energy. And you think you're showing them what they lost, but really what you're doing is you're showing yourself that you're still performing for their approval. And it's what I call the "I'll show him or her" trap. And it's one of the most exhausting emotional patterns in our modern world. If you think about CARDI B, one of the biggest stars on the planet, multiple hit records, massive business success, making more money than most people dream of, a body that's celebrated globally by every external measure. She's at the absolute top, yet she's still stuck in a cycle with Offset. A man who has publicly cheated on her multiple times, a man who's disrespected her in front of the entire world, a man who, despite her incredible success, beauty, value, continues to treat her like she's replaceable. And here's what's fascinating. Every time he cheats, every time he disrespects her, CARDI comes back harder, hotter photos, bigger success, more money, more proof of her value. And it's like she's constantly trying to show him and the world that she's more than enough. But he keeps cheating anyway, not because she's not enough, not because she's not beautiful enough, successful enough, or valuable enough. It's because the problem was never about her lacking something. The problem is that he just doesn't value what he has, and no amount of her proving her worth will change that. And I'm not here to judge CARDI specifically. Only she knows her full truth and what she's working through. But her public pattern, it kind of represents something millions of us experience in less visible ways. That exhausting cycle of trying to prove our worth to people who've already shown us they just don't see it. And here's what I know for sure. This isn't just happening to celebrities in messy relationships. It's happening in offices where people work themselves to exhaustion trying to prove their value, to bosses who don't appreciate them. It's happening in friendships where people constantly give more to prove they're worthy of reciprocation. It's happening in families where people achieve trying to finally earn approval from parents who've already decided not to give it. And the result is an exhausting cycle where no achievement ever satisfies, because the person you're trying to prove yourself to has already decided, consciously or even unconsciously, not to see your value. You succeed, you glow up, you level up, and they still don't treat you better. So you work harder, achieve more, prove more, thinking this will finally make them see, but it never does. And this is the "I'll show him or her" trap, the endless cycle of trying to prove your worth to someone who's already shown you they don't value you. And it's one of the most spiritually depleting patterns of our time, if you think about your own life, think about your own life for a moment. How much of your recent growth has been genuinely for you versus designed to prove something to someone who hurt you? How often do you post achievements secretly hoping a specific person sees them? How much energy are you spending trying to show someone what they're missing instead of building a life that fulfills you regardless of whether they notice? If you're honest, you might recognize that, beneath your ambition, beneath your glow up, beneath your success, there's still a part of you that's, performing for someone who already showed you. They just don't appreciate the show. And you think you're moving on. You think you're leveling up, and you think, you're showing them what they lost, but really you're still stuck, still seeking validation from the person who already demonstrated they won't give it. Still making them the audience for your life instead of living for yourself. And this is the I'll show him or her trap, and understanding how it works is the first step to finally breaking free from the exhausting cycle. Just to note, if you enjoy this deep dive into celebrity relationship evolution, check out my 24-hour live stream channels for more content exploring both singles journeys and relationship dynamics. As a subscriber, you can join the conversation, share your perspectives, and connect with others fascinated by these same topics. Subscribe now and become part of our growing community. You've done everything right. You've hit the gym. You've built the career, you've glowed up in every way possible, you transformed your entire life, and from the outside, it looks like you've won, like you've moved on, like you're thriving without them. But here's the question nobody wants to ask. Who are you really doing it for? Because if you're honest, if you strip away the Instagram captions and the living my best life posts, there's still a part of you that's performing, and still a part of you that's still hoping they see it. Still a part of you that's waiting for them to realize what they've lost. You think you've moved on, but you have. But the question is, have you really? Or are you just performing your freedom for the person who hurt you? The first truth about the I'll show him trap is this. When your transformation is about proving something to someone else, you're still giving them power over your life, even when you think you've moved on. And if you think about what's actually happening when you're in I'll show him or her mode. You've hit the gym, not primarily because you want to feel strong, but because you want them to see what they're missing. You chase success, not primarily because the work fulfills you, but because you want them to regret underestimating you. You post the perfect photos, not primarily because you feel good, but because you want them to see you looking happy and thriving. You upgrade everything about your life, your body, your career, your appearance, your lifestyle. And while you tell yourself it's for you, there's a part of you that's secretly performing for an audience of one, the person who hurt you. And this is the trap, because even though you're no longer with them, even though you've technically moved on, even though you're doing all this work on yourself, they're still at the center of your motivation. You're still making decisions based on how it will look to them. You're still seeking their validation, their regret, their recognition. You think you're showing them what they lost, but really you're showing yourself that you're still emotionally tethered to their opinion of you. Think about CARDI B's pattern with Offset. Every time there's a cheating scandal, every single time he publicly disrespects her, she comes back with something bigger, a hotter photo shoot, a bigger business deal, more success, more proof of her value. And from the outside, it looks like strength. Of course it does. It looks like a woman who's unbothered, who's thriving, who's showing him what he's missing. But if you look a little closer, you might see something else. A woman who's still performing for someone who's already shown he just doesn't value the performance. A woman whose incredible success is partially motivated by trying to prove something to someone who's demonstrated he won't see it no matter what she achieves. She's literally one of the biggest stars in the world. She makes more money than him. She's more famous than him. By every objective measure, she's won. Yet he still cheats, still disrespects her, still treats her like she's not enough. And not because she's actually not enough, but because his inability to value her was never about her lacking something. It was about him lacking the capacity to see and honor what he has. And no amount of her proving her worth will create that capacity in him. And this is the painful truth about the I'll show him or her trap. You're trying to solve a problem that can't be solved through your improvement. You're trying to earn recognition from someone who's already decided, consciously or unconsciously, not to give it. You can get in the best shape of your life and they still won't value you more. You can achieve incredible success and they still won't treat you any better. You can glow up in every way possible and they still won't suddenly see your worth, because the problem was never that you weren't enough. The problem is that they just don't have the capacity to value what they have, and that's not something your transformation can fix. And if you think about your own life, how much energy have you spent trying to prove your worth to someone who already showed you that they don't see it? Maybe it's an ex who didn't appreciate you, and now you're posting your best life hoping they're watching. Maybe it's a parent who never gave you the approval that you needed, and now you're achieving hoping they finally be proud. Maybe it's a former friend who betrayed you, and now you're succeeding to show them you didn't need them. Maybe it's a boss who just kind of undervalued you, and now you're building your own success to prove they were wrong. And here's what makes this pattern so insidious. The transformation itself might be genuinely positive. You might actually be getting healthier, more successful, more aligned with your goals. But if the primary motivation is proving something to someone else, you're still trapped. You're still performing for their validation. You're still making them the center of your story. You're not actually free. You're just in a prettier prison where you look amazing and achieve incredible things, but still emotionally bound to someone who just doesn't deserve the power over you or to have that power over you. And this is why the revenge glow often feels empty. Even when you achieve it, you hit the goal, the body, the success, the upgrade, and instead of satisfaction, you feel nothing. Or worse, you feel disappointed that they still don't seem to care, still don't seem to notice, still don't treat you any better, because again, you were trying to solve an external problem. Their lack of appreciation with internal work, your transformation. You were trying to earn something from them, recognition, regret, validation that they've already shown you they won't give. So Cardi B can achieve everything. She can be at the absolute top of her field. She can make more money, have more success, look more incredible than ever. And Offset can still cheat, still disrespect her, still treat her like she's not valuable. Not because she's not valuable, but because his behavior was never actually about her value in the first place. It was about his character, his choices, his inability to honor what he has. No amount of her proving her worth will change his character. And the same is true for whoever you're trying to prove yourself to. Their inability, I should say, to see your value isn't actually about you lacking something. It's about them lacking the capacity to recognize and honor what's in front of them. And you can't fix that through your transformation. You can't earn their appreciation for your achievement. You can't prove your worth to someone who's already decided not to see it. This is the first truth. When your transformation is about proving something to someone else, you're still giving them power over your life. You're still seeking validation from the person who already showed you they won't give it. You're still making the audience, or making them the audience, for your growth instead of growing for yourself. Just to note, if you enjoy this deep dive into celebrity relationship evolution, check out my 24-hour live stream channels for more content exploring both singles journeys and relationship dynamics. As a subscriber, you can join the conversation, share your perspectives, and connect with others fascinated by these same topics. Subscribe now and become part of our growing community. Here's what nobody tells you about the revenge glow up. It's exhausting. Not just physically exhausting through, although constantly grinding to prove yourself definitely takes a toll. Of course it does, but spiritually exhausting, emotionally exhausting, the kind of exhaustion that comes from never being able to simply enjoy your life because you're too busy performing it for someone else. You achieve something incredible, and instead of celebrating, you're immediately checking. Did they see it? Did they notice? Did they care? And you can't just be. You can't just live. Every moment becomes a performance designed to generate a specific response from a specific person, and that performance is killing you. The second truth about I'll show him or show her trap is this. The exhaustion of constantly proving yourself keeps you performing instead of living. And this performance prevents you from experiencing the genuine fulfillment you're actually seeking. Here's what happens when you're stuck in I'll show him or her mode. Every achievement becomes a performance. Every success becomes a message. Every transformation becomes proof. You're not just living your life, you're creating it for an audience, specifically for the audience of the person who didn't value you. You post the gym selfie, but you're really thinking about whether they'll see it. You share the career win, but you're really wondering if they'll notice. You show up looking amazing, but you're really hoping they'll regret what they lost. Your life becomes a performance designed to generate a specific response from a specific person. And that performance is absolutely exhausting because you can never just be. You can never just enjoy your success for what it is. You can never just appreciate your growth without wondering if, they're watching, if they're noticing, if they're finally seeing your worth. Every moment is just kind of filtered through the question, will this make them regret losing me? And think about how exhausting that is. You can't just work out because it feels good. You're working out how to show them what they're missing. You can't just pursue a career goals because they fulfill you. You're pursuing them to prove you didn't need them. You can't just live your life. You're performing your life for their potential regret. And this is what CARDI's pattern looks like from the outside. Every photo shoot isn't just a photo shoot, it's a message. Every success isn't just a success, it's proof. Every moment of her life becomes part of the performance of, look what you're disrespecting. And that performance is just exhausting because she can never just be CARDI enjoying her life. She's always CARDI proving her worth to someone who's already shown he just doesn't value it. And the result, you achieve incredible things, but you feel empty. You hit major goals, but you don't feel satisfied. You transform your entire life, but still feel like something's just missing. Because what's missing isn't more achievement, more success, more proof of your worth. What's missing is the ability to experience your life for yourself instead of performing it for someone else's validation. When you're in the I'll show him or her trap, you lose access to genuine satisfaction because satisfaction requires being present with your achievements, appreciating them for what they are, experiencing them as fulfillment rather than as proof. But you can't do that when you're constantly performing for someone else's attention. Like I said, you hit the goal or you hit the goal, and instead of celebrating, you're immediately checking, did they see it? Did they notice? Did they care? And when they don't respond the way you hoped, when they don't seem, impressed, they don't reach out, they don't show regret, you feel devastated, not because the achievement itself wasn't valuable, but because the achievement was never actually about the achievement. It was about getting a response from them. So you set another goal, achieve something bigger, prove something more, hoping this will finally make them see. But it never really does it? Because they've already shown you they don't see your value. And no amount of external proof will create internal appreciation in someone who lacks it. Think about Offset's pattern. CARDI achieves more and more and more. She becomes one of the biggest stars in the world. She makes incredible money. She's celebrated globally. And he still cheats, still disrespects her, still treats her like she's replaceable. Not because her achievements aren't impressive, but because his behavior was never actually about her not being impressive enough. It was about his character, his choices, his lack of integrity. And no amount of her success will change that. And the same is true for whoever you're performing for. You know, their lack of appreciation isn't because you haven't achieved enough. It's because they lack the capacity to appreciate what you're offering, and you can't create that capacity in them through your performance. You just can't. So you end up exhausted, constantly achieving but never satisfied, constantly transforming but never fulfilled, constantly proving but never feeling seen, because you're performing for the wrong audience. The right audience for you, for your life, is you. You know, your transformation should fulfill you. Your success should satisfy you. Your growth should be for you. But when you're stuck in the I'll show him or show her trap, you've made someone else the primary audience for your life. And that means you can never actually really enjoy your own show. You're too busy wondering if they're enjoying it. And this creates a profound emptiness. You look successful from the outside. You look like you're thriving. You look like you've moved on and leveled up. But really from the inside, you're still stuck, still performing, still seeking validation for someone who already showed you they won't give it. Think about your own patterns for a minute. How often do you achieve something and immediately think about whether a specific person will see it? How often do you post something primarily hoping a specific person is watching? How often is your motivation for growth less about fulfilling yourself and more about proving something to someone else? So if you're honest, you might recognize that you've been performing your life instead of living it. That you've been achieving for someone else's validation instead of your own fulfillment. You know, that you've been so focused on proving your worth to someone who doesn't see it, that you've lost touch with experiencing your worth for yourself. And this is the exhaustion of the I'll show him or her trap. Not just the physical exhaustion of constant achievement, but the spiritual exhaustion of never being able to simply enjoy your life because you're always performing it for someone else's approval. CARDI can achieve everything, but if she's achieving it primarily to show Offset what he's missing, she'll never actually experience satisfaction, because satisfaction requires presence. And she can't be present with her success if she's constantly performing it for his attention. And the same is true for you. You can achieve incredible things, but if you're achieving them primarily to prove something to someone who already showed you they don't value you, they'll never actually experience, or you'll never actually experience fulfillment. Because fulfillment requires living for yourself, not performing for someone else. This is the second truth. The exhaustion of constantly proving yourself keeps you performing instead of living. You achieve incredible things but feel empty because you're experiencing them as proof rather than fulfillment. So focused on showing someone else your worth that you've lost touch with experiencing it for yourself. Just to note, if you enjoy this deep dive into celebrity relationship evolution, check out my 24-hour live stream channels for more content exploring both singles journeys and relationship dynamics. As a subscriber, you can join the conversation, share your perspectives, and connect with others fascinated by these same topics. Subscribe now and become part of our growing community. Let me ask you something you've been avoiding. Why are you still trying? You've achieved so much, you've transformed so much, you've proven so much, and they still don't see your value. They still don't treat you better. They still don't seem to care. So why are you still trying to show them? Here's the answer you don't hear. Because accepting the truth that nothing you do will ever make them see your worth feels more painful than the exhausting cycle of trying. As long as you're still trying, you can still hope. As long as you're still proving, you can still believe that maybe, just maybe, this achievement will finally make them see. But what if it won't? What if they never will? The third truth about the our show him or her trap is perhaps the most painful. You keep trying to prove your worth to someone who already showed you they don't value you, because accepting that truth, that nothing you do will make them see you, feels more painful than the exhausting cycle of trying. And there's a devastating realization underneath the our show him or her pattern. It's not just that they don't currently see your value, it's that they might never see your value. No matter what you achieve, no matter how much you transform, no matter how much you prove, and accepting that truth feels unbearable. Because if you accept that nothing you do will make them value you, then you have to face some painful questions. What was all that effort for? Why did you work so hard to prove something to someone who was never going to see it? Why did you make them the center of your transformation when they were never going to appreciate it? And most painful of all, if they don't value you, does that mean something's wrong with you? These questions are so painful that it feels easier to just kind of stay in that cycle, to keep trying, to keep proving, to keep hoping that maybe this achievement, this transformation, this level of success will finally make them see. Because staying in the cycle means you don't have to face the truth, that their inability to see your value isn't actually about you, it's about them. Think about CARDI's situation. She's achieved everything. She's at the top of her field, right? She's making incredible money. She's globally celebrated. She's objectively successful by every measure. And Offset still cheats, still disrespects her, still treats her like she's not valuable enough to be faithful to. At some point, she has to face a painful truth. It's not about her not being enough. It's not about him not having the capacity to value what he sees. But accepting the truth means accepting that nothing she does will change his behavior. That she can achieve everything and he'll still disrespect her. That his treatment of her isn't actually about her value, it's about his character. And it's just that realization is devastating, because it means all the effort she's put in to proving her worth to him was wasted, because he was never going to see it anyway. So instead of facing that truth, it's easier to just kind of stay in the cycle. Think about maybe if I maybe if I just achieve a little more, transform a little more, prove a little more, then he'll finally see my value and treat me better. But he won't, because the problem was never that she wasn't proving her worth enough. The problem is that he lacks the character to honor what he has, and no amount of her proving will just kind of create that character in him. And the same pattern exists in your life with whoever you're trying to prove yourself to. Maybe it's an ex, and you keep thinking, if they just see how much I've grown, how much I've changed, how amazing I've become, they'll regret losing me and realize what they had. But again, they won't, because their inability to value you was never about you not being amazing enough. It was about them lacking the capacity to recognize and honor what was in front of them. And maybe it's a parent, and you keep thinking, if I just achieve enough, succeed enough, make them proud enough, they'll finally give me the approval I've always wanted. But they won't, because again, their withholding of approval was never about you not achieving enough. It was about their own wounds, their own limitations, their own inability to give what you needed. And maybe it's, or even a former boss or colleague, and you keep thinking, if I just build enough success, prove I didn't need them, show them they were wrong about me, they'll finally see my value. But they won't, again, because their inability to see your value in the first place wasn't about you lacking something. It was about their inability to recognize talent, potential, and worth when it's right in front of them. And this is the painful truth you're avoiding by staying in the I'll show him or her cycle. Some people will never see your value, no matter what you do. And that's not a reflection of your own worth. It's not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of their capacity. And I know sometimes that's difficult to accept or see, but accepting that truth means accepting that you've been wasting your energy, that you've been performing for someone who was never going to appreciate the performance, that you've been seeking validation from someone who was never going to give it. And that feels like failure. I get it. Like you've been fooling yourself, like you've been investing in something that was never going to pay off. So instead of accepting it, you keep trying, you keep proving, you keep hoping, because hope, even exhausting, painful hope, feels better than acceptance of the truth, or of a truth that hurts. And this is why the I'll show him or her trap is so hard to break. It's not just a pattern, it's protection. It's protection against a painful realization. You know, as long as you're still trying to prove your worth to them, you don't have to face the truth that they're never going to see it. And as long as you're still working to show them what they're missing, you don't have to accept that they're never going to care. As long as you're still performing for their validation, you don't have to grieve the fact that they're never going to give it. And the cycle protects you. You know, that cycle protects you from grief, from acceptance, from the painful truth that some people simply won't value you. Not because you're not valuable, but because they lack the capacity to see it. So if you think about CARDI, how long can she keep proving before she has to face the truth that Offset is never going to change? That no amount of success will make them or make him faithful. That his cheating isn't about her not being enough, it's about him lacking integrity. And just accepting that truth will be devastating. For some of us, anyway. It would mean accepting that all the times she took him back, all the times she defended him, all the times she believed he would change, were based on hope that was never going to be fulfilled. So instead, she stays in the pattern, achieves more, proves more, shows him what he's missing, because staying in the cycle feels less painful than accepting the truth. But here's what that avoidance costs. It keeps her trapped in performing for someone who will never appreciate the performance, trapped in seeking validation from someone who will never give it, trapped in a cycle that exhausts her while never actually fulfilling her. The same is true for you. Every day you spend trying to prove your worth to someone who's already shown you they don't see it is a day you're not living for yourself. You know, a day you're not experiencing genuine fulfillment. A day you're trapped in the validation instead of claiming your own. And the painful truth you're avoiding is actually the key to your freedom. And that's the thing. Some people will never see your value. And that's okay, because their inability to see it doesn't diminish it. And I'm going to say that again. Some people will never see your value. And that's okay, because their inability to see it doesn't diminish it. Your worth isn't determined by whether they recognize it. Your value isn't conditional on their approval. Your transformation doesn't need their validation to be real and meaningful. But you can't experience that freedom while you're still proving or trying to prove yourself to them. You can't claim your own worth while you're still seeking theirs. You can't live for yourself while you're still performing for them. This is the third truth. You keep trying to prove your worth to someone who already showed you they just don't value you, because accepting that they never will, it just feels more painful than the exhausting cycle of try it. But that avoidance keeps you trapped, performing for validation that will never come instead of living for fulfillment that's already available. Just to note, if you enjoy this deep dive into celebrity relationship evolution, check out my 24-hour live stream channels for more content exploring both singles journeys and relationship dynamics. As a subscriber, you can join the conversation, share your perspectives, and connect with others fascinated by these same topics. Subscribe now and become part of our growing community. So here's where you are. You know, you've been given them power over your life, even though you thought you moved on. You've been performing instead of living, achieving incredible things but feeling empty. You've been avoiding a painful truth that they'll never see your value no matter what you do. These three truths create the perfect trap. They work together to keep you stuck in an exhausting cycle where you achieve more and more but feel fulfilled less and less. The performance keeps you focused on them. The exhaustion keeps you from genuine fulfillment. And the avoidance keeps you from accepting the truth that would set you free. And in that space between those forces, or these forces, your life becomes a show for an audience that will never appreciate while you lose touch with living for yourself. But here's what you need to understand. This doesn't have to be your story forever, because these three truths, that proving yourself to someone else keeps you giving them power, that performing your life prevents you from living it, and that cycle protects you from accepting a painful truth, create the perfect conditions for the "I'll show him" trap. Together they explain why you can achieve incredible things while feeling empty, why success doesn't satisfy when it's motivated by proving something to someone else, why transformation feels exhausting when you're performing it for someone's validation rather than experiencing it for yourself. That performance, or the performance, keeps you focused on them. The exhaustion keeps you from genuine fulfillment. The avoidance keeps you from accepting the truth that would set you free ultimately. And in that space between those forces, your life becomes a show for an audience that will never appreciate you while you lose touch with living for yourself. But there's another way, a path beyond the "I'll show him" or her trap and the exhaustion it creates. And this path begins with a painful but liberating acceptance. Some people will never see your value no matter what you achieve. And that's not a reflection of your worth, it's a reflection of their capacity. Imagine a life where your transformation is genuinely for you, where you pursue goals because they fulfill you, not because they prove something to someone else, where your success satisfies you because you're experiencing it for yourself, not performing it for someone's validation. Imagine posting about your life without secretly hoping a specific person sees it. Imagine achieving something and celebrating it for what it is, not for what it might make someone else feel. Imagine living your life as the primary audience, not as a performance for someone who already showed you they won't appreciate it. Imagine the freedom of no longer being emotionally tethered to someone who doesn't value you. The relief of no longer performing for their validation. The peace of living for yourself instead of proving yourself to them. This isn't about giving up on growth or achievement at all. It's about transforming your relationship with why you're growing and achieving. It's about shifting from proving your worth to someone else to experiencing worth for yourself. Start with this practice, right? Notice when your motivation for something is primarily about proving something to someone else. If you notice when you achieve something and immediately think about whether they'll see it, notice when you're performing your life instead of living it. These moments reveal where the "I'll show him" or her trap is operating. They show you where you're still giving someone power over your life, still seeking validation for someone who already showed you they won't give it. So when you notice these patterns, try this. Pause and ask yourself, am I doing this for me, or am I doing this to prove something to someone else? Would I still pursue this if I knew they would never see it, never care, never acknowledge it? These questions help distinguish between genuine growth and performative transformation, between living for yourself and performing for someone else. If you realize you're doing something primarily to prove something to someone else, you have a choice. At that point, you have a choice. You can continue the pattern, or you can redirect that energy towards something that genuinely fulfills you. Next, practice experiencing your achievements for yourself. So when you hit a goal, before you post about it or share it, or just kind of sit with it, feel it, appreciate it for what it is to you, not for how it might look to someone else. Ask yourself, how does this achievement feel to me? What does it mean for my life? How does it serve my genuine desires and values? And this practice, that practice helps you reconnect with your own experience instead of immediately performing it for external validation. And then face the painful truth you've been avoiding. The person you're trying to prove yourself to might never see your value. And that's not because you're not valuable. Again, it's because they lack the capacity to recognize what's in front of them. And sit with that truth. Let yourself grieve it. Grieve the validation you wanted that they'll never give. It's okay to grieve that. Grieve the recognition you hoped for that they'll never offer. Grieve the relationship or approval or acknowledgement you've been seeking through achievement. This grief is painful, yes, but it's also very liberating, because on the other side of that grief is freedom. Freedom from needing their validation, freedom from performing for their approval, freedom from being trapped in their opinion of you. Finally, redirect your energy from proving your worth to someone else to experiencing your worth for yourself. Ask, what do I actually want for my life? What would genuinely fulfill me? What goals would I pursue if I wasn't trying to prove anything to anyone? These questions, they kind of just help reconnect you with your authentic desires, the ones that have nothing to do with someone else's validation and everything to do with your genuine fulfillment. And this isn't a quick fix thing. You know, the I'll show him or her trap has deep roots. It has deep roots in how you've learned to seek validation, how you've tied your worth to others' recognition, and how you've used achievement as a way to earn approval. But with each moment you choose to live for yourself instead of performing for someone else, with each achievement you experience for your own fulfillment instead of someone else's validation, with each step forward or towards claiming your worth instead of proving it, you weaken the traps hold on your life. So you begin to discover what CARDI and all of us caught in this pattern need to discover: that your worth isn't determined by whether someone else sees it, that your value doesn't need your validation or their validation to be real, that you can achieve incredible things for yourself instead of performing them for someone who will never appreciate them. Just to note, if you enjoy this deep dive into celebrity relationship evolution, check out my 24-hour live stream channels for more content exploring both singles journeys and relationship dynamics. As a subscriber, you can join the conversation, share your perspectives, and connect with others fascinated by these same topics. Subscribe now and become part of our growing community. So let me paint you a picture of what freedom actually looks like. Not the Instagram version of freedom, not the carefully created posts, the living my best life captions, the performance of having moved on. Real freedom, the kind where you wake up and your first thought isn't about whether they're watching, the kind where you achieve something and feel genuine satisfaction, not because it proves anything to anyone, but because it fulfills you. The kind of freedom where you're finally living for yourself instead of performing for someone who will never appreciate the show. And this is what becomes possible when you finally start proving yourself to people who don't value you and start living for yourself. So let me share what becomes possible when you finally stop proving yourself to people who don't value you and start living for yourself. So imagine if CARDI's incredible success transformed from a performance for Offset's attention into genuine fulfillment for herself. If her achievements came not from needing to prove her worth to someone who doesn't see it, but from authentic passion for her work. If her transformation was experienced for herself rather than performed for his validation. If she discovered that her worth was never actually conditional on his recognition. This shift wouldn't erase her achievements. It would transform their meaning. Her success would become genuine fulfillment rather than proof. Her growth would serve her rather than perform for him. Her life would be lived rather than created for his approval or potential, I should say, regret. The same possibility awaits in your own relationship with achievement and validation. So when you stop proving yourself to people who don't value you, when you truly redirect your energy towards living for yourself, your entire experience transforms. You stop achieving to prove and start achieving to fulfill. You stop performing your life and start living it. You stop seeking validation, of course, from people who just don't give it, and start claiming your worth for yourself. This doesn't mean you stop growing or achieving. It means your growth comes just from a different place, not from lack, but from desire. Not from proving or needing to prove something, but from wanting to experience something. There's a difference there. Not from performing for someone else, but from living for yourself. Think about how this might transform your daily experience. Imagine waking up, not with thoughts about whether someone is noticing your progress, but with excitement about what genuinely fulfills you. Imagine achieving something and experiencing pure satisfaction. Not wondering if they saw it, not hoping they regret losing you, just a genuine appreciation for what you've accomplished. Imagine posting about your life without secretly hoping a specific person is watching. Imagine success that, satisfies because it's aligned with your authentic desires, not because it proves something to someone else. Imagine a life where you're the primary audience, where your opinion of yourself matters more than anyone else's opinion of you. And this is what becomes possible when you break free from the "I'll show him or her" trap. Not a life without achievement, but a life where achievement serves you rather than performing for someone else. Where success fulfills you rather than trying to prove something. Where you're free to live for yourself rather than being trapped in someone else's validation. The path to this freedom requires courage, though. It requires you to face the painful truth that some people will never see your value, and to accept that their inability to see it doesn't diminish it. It requires you to grieve the validation you wanted that they'll never give. It requires you to redirect your energy from proving yourself to them to experiencing life for yourself. And it requires you to sit with the discomfort of achieving something without immediately wondering if they noticed. And it requires you to celebrate your wins for yourself rather than performing them for someone else. It requires you to claim your worth instead of seeking their validation. But on the other side of this courage is a freedom that changes everything. The freedom to live for yourself, the freedom to experience your achievements as genuine fulfillment, the freedom to know your worth isn't conditional on whether someone else recognizes it. So this week I challenge you to notice one area where you're still trying to prove yourself to someone who already showed you they just don't value you. One place where you're performing for their validation instead of living for your fulfillment. And then take that one action that's genuinely for you, regardless of whether they ever see it or care about it. Maybe that means pursuing a goal that fulfills you even though it won't impress them. Maybe it means posting about your life without hoping they're watching. Maybe it means celebrating an achievement for yourself without performing it for their potential regret. Because maybe it means finally accepting the painful truth that they'll never see your value and choosing to live fully anyway, not because you're trying to prove something to them, but because your life is too valuable to waste performing for someone who will never appreciate it. Whatever action or whatever that action is, let it be a practice in living for yourself instead of proving yourself to someone else. Let it be a moment of breaking free from the exhausting cycle of seeking validation from people who won't give it. Let it be a step forward, to a life where your worth is claimed by you, not proven to them. And remember, the person you're trying to prove yourself to has already shown you they don't see your value. And no amount of achievement, transformation, or proof will ever change that. Because the problem was never that they weren't enough or that you weren't enough. The problem is that they lack the capacity to recognize what's in front of them. So the I'll show you trap promises that one more achievement will finally make them see, but that's the trap. There is no achievement big enough to create appreciation in someone who lacks it. There's no transformation impressive enough to make someone value you if they've already decided not to. True freedom comes not from proving your worth to people who don't see it, but from claiming your worth for yourself. Not from achieving more, but from experiencing your achievements as genuine fulfillment rather than proof. Not from performing your life for someone else's validation, but from living your life for your own satisfaction. The power was never in making them see your value. It was always in recognizing that your value doesn't need their validation to be real. So you can be at the top of the world like CARDI and still be trapped in seeking validation from someone who will never give it. Or you could be exactly where you are right now and choose freedom, the freedom to live for yourself, to experience your worth without needing to prove it, to build a life that fulfills you regardless of whether anyone else appreciates it. The choice is yours, but know this, that every day you spend trying to prove yourself to someone who already showed you they don't value you is a day you're not living for yourself. A day you're not experiencing genuine fulfillment. A day you're trapped in their validation instead of claiming your own. You are valuable, not because of what you achieve, not because of how you look, not because of what you prove. You're valuable simply because you exist. And that value doesn't need anyone else's recognition to be real. So stop performing for people who would never give or never appreciate the show. And I'm going to say that again. Stop performing for people who will never appreciate the show. Start living for yourself. That's where your freedom is. That's where your fulfillment is. That's where your life actually begins. As always, stay beautiful, stay connected, and stay conscious in the field.